Community.
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 You're listening to IO Radio.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the show. My name's Harry and you're listening to IO Radio. On today's show, it's all about community. What is it? Who is it? Why is it? Here in Ipswich, we have a community. In fact, we have lots of small communities that together form one big one. But communities are not static things. They are dynamic and they change, but don't take my word for it. We sent our cameras out to ask people exactly what they think a community is.
Us. We are the community, really. You know, it's just everybody who lives around us and who takes part in helping everybody out, really. But everybody looks after each other. So how do we put it? Community spirit.
All right, well, he seems to know what he's talking about. Okay, so it's about community spirit, but communities are driven by a lot more than that. Take Helder here and his friends. They found themselves in Ipswich because their parents moved here from Portugal. And just like them, Helder knows that Ipswich is a better place for him to live.
I like Ipswich. It's more calm than Portugal. Don't have too many complications. And you can work and more things. You have more opportunity in England and UK.
You're listening to IO Radio.
So, you can see why people want to come to Ipswich. And it's been that way for a while. The Vikings ruled it for a time about 1,000 years ago. Then, there were just 1,000 people living here. Now there's 114,000. In the past 70 years, the number of non-white people in Ipswich has risen from 50 to over 20,000. We are increasingly multicultural, with 17.1% of the community from non-white British ethnicities. And we speak over 70 languages here in Ipswich. But it's not just from overseas that people come. Louise was living in a bad part of Glasgow.
Well, before I moved here, I lived in Glasgow and now I'm staying here in Ipswich, and I've been here for around about ever since February, so a few months now. I moved back and forward, but I like it a lot more here. It's a lot calmer. There's not as much like chaos really around here than what there was where I was originally.
Tell us about the chaos that you saw.
Up the road, it's got to the extent where if at George Square, you need to have actually police in and around the McDonald's area now, because there's either Neds, chavs, etc. starting trouble for no apparent reason. A good community is basically people where you can chat to people. There's not any really like racism or whatever around. There's not really much racism. There's not really any fly comments. There's nothing really going against people here. It's all basically just everyone basically gets along.
Okay, nice one, Louise. So people end up in Ipswich for all sorts of reasons, and that's what makes it such a fascinating place to live. It's the most ethnically diverse town in Suffolk. Just have a look at the shops on Norwich Road and you'll see that there are people from all over the world living here. Take Noel for instance. He was born in Doncaster and he moved into a care setting in Ipswich, and now he lives independently. He thinks there is a strong community here.
Cooperation, to be honest, I think is what kind of builds a community. But when people are working together, obviously everyone's strong as a community, but everyone has different ideals and their view on things. A lot of confliction, I think, but you know, everyone works together, everything works out better in the end. That's what I think of the community. Because I was brought up in really bad environments, so this, compared to some of the environments I've been into, this is a piece of cake to me, to be honest.
You're listening to IO Radio.
Noel has lived here for a couple of years. Our next guest has been here even longer, and it's interesting to see how he is integrated. It shows just how the people become the place, and the place becomes the people.
I live in Ipswich about 7 years, since 2008, so yeah, about 7 years, yeah. I like it's quiet and, you know, everything I know now, you know, I learned from here, you know, it's college, and now you start university, so yeah, it's been good for me. My dad lived here. He lived here about 10 years, So I moved here with him because at that time, back in 2008, I was still underage. So he brought me here to live with him. So, I think, I grew up and, now I start my life, I live on my own. And I've got my local church in here and I go to my church, so it's quite very friendly group as well. So, yeah, I quite like it. Yeah, I think I make part of the group, my community church.
You're listening to IO Radio.
So, a church can be a community too. Well, that makes sense. In fact, any group of people who can get together to cooperate could be called a community. Down at the Blackwell Academy, Bopper has been teaching kickboxing most of his life. His family originate from the Caribbean, and he was born here in Ipswich to parents who formed one of the many waves of immigrants who have come here to make Ipswich the place it is today.
It can bring people together and give people a sense of achievement. Maybe some kids might not have that thing where they can, say, get along well in school, but something like this, they can grade, get different belts, work up to black belt, become an instructor at the end of the day, maybe run your own club. So you can have that benefit in that way.
You're listening to IO Radio.
On the south side of Ipswich, you'll find the Chantry Estate. It's the biggest in Suffolk. Shannon has lived here all her life, and she sees both sides of the place, but to her, it's home.
If you get into the right crowd, then you're like family. But most of the time, if you just keep yourself to yourself, everything's fine. Altogether, it's a good place to live. It's very quiet, it's calm, there's never no arguments between the other residents. It's just a peaceful place to live, really. Everyone knows everything in Chantry, like there's no hiding away from it. If there's a new person and moves into Chantry, you'll suddenly know about them because people talk. But Chantry people just stick together, really, and that's the best thing about living in Chantry.
Thanks for listening, and make sure you check out the other films on the Source website and see you out there in our community.
I think Ipswich is quite a friendly place to live, to be honest.
Everything seems better on here.
It's a nice place to live. Quite chilled in a certain way, not like the city, good.